All right, guys, another Sunday scan. Thank you guys for tuning in. I almost made a big mistake, and I had the video recorder on just a picture. So I basically took a picture of myself, and I was recording just the voice for a moment there. But fortunately, I figured that out before I went 40 minutes into this thing and only had a picture. But we've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to try not to ramble on too much, but I think it's a lot of stuff that you guys need to hear, especially in the current market environment. I think that Sunday scans have been literally on point as far as timing on the topics that we're discussing, kind of prepping you and preparing you for the market and what's kind of been unfolding. The first thing was kind of talking about coronavirus and sector trades. We did a big video on understanding the difference between just kind of like a one and done type trade, something that you normally see has a PR, it ramps up, it either catches momentum or it doesn't, and then a day or two later it's done. And with that, the difference between sectors and how they start to kind of build on one another. And, as you saw, Lake, APT, CODX, you name it. I mean, obviously there's a ton. IBIO, I can keep on going and going and going, but there's probably 30 names ripping based off of hype because, they're all having collaborations and it's all BS PRs, but nobody cares right now, right? So you have to be able to adapt and understand what type of market you're in. And right now we are in a buy first, ask questions later type of market. Anybody collabs with anybody related to anything that could have to do with the viruses or any type of fix or any type of solution, any type of even mask, everything. It doesn't matter. If there's that one little connection that anybody could make that could suggest that it could be a solution, it is being bought. And one thing that we've kind of been seeing happen recently, we saw it with CODX a few times, we saw it with GNPX, and I think TNXP not so much, but even IBIO, they did not raise yet, but we'll see what happens when they do. They did do a filing, a shelf to do so. But what it reminds me of, and the kind of the ideas or the examples that I gave you when I did the sector video was related to the cannabis sector, right? And Tilray was going, we had CGC, CRON, and all these different names, but the junkiest one of them all was IGC, if you guys remember. And IGC was ripping, going, and then they raised. And so everybody's like, all right, it's over, right? Because they raised and it's going to unwind, and nope, it continued to go higher. And then ramped up again, and they raised again. And I think they did it 3 times, and it continued to go from 50 cents to $15. And because everybody got biased on the raises, they were all bent up, and it just kept on going and going, squeezed everybody out. And then once everybody was squeezed out, and people were like, all right, maybe I shouldn't touch this thing, it unwound. And so that's kind of what we've seen on CODX as well as many of the other ones lately, where there is just so much supply that regardless of the demand, it's just being taken, right? So on Thursday, I tweeted that, I felt like that was max liquidity, meaning you could trade any size you wanted, and you were pretty clear to in and out within seconds. There was just so much volume, whether it be Codex, APT, Lake, etc. And I felt like it was going to gap up the next day, but then the bids were going to be gone. And that's exactly what happened. And the reason for that is because, in my opinion, on Thursday, I mean, literally everything was blown out. Paper, any offerings, any overhang, anything. Anybody that wanted to sell, sold. And that was at the expense of shorts. That was at the expense of traders chasing the hype, not wanting to miss out, FOMO, etc. Mostly shorts, right? And the volume, and just mainly supply and demand. When demand is way too much, this is what happens. And so it goes above and beyond just the short squeeze. Short squeeze obviously helps it, but at some point, it's going to unravel. Now, the difference between a regular short squeeze and these sector type trades is they last a lot longer than you think. And so that was exactly what you guys saw this past week. And I think that everybody probably left Friday thinking, okay, finally, it's over. You know, it's going to unwind. And I think that's actually a crowded idea again. And, you know, if we get headlines, we already did. We got the first U.S. death. I think there was a couple other cases, as well as I think France came out with something. I don't remember. But there's a lot, right? So the headlines are not going anywhere. And I think that a lot of people are like, all right, it's over, and they're going to unwind. And that is likely the truth over time. But I think that the more people that are, you know, peg it as, all right, it's done, the more it's going to kind of hang around. And I would kind of look at Codex, how, you know, they had the PRs, it kind of hung around, ramped up, PRs, ramped up, PRs. And I think we're in that level right now where it's going to definitely fade off, but it's going to stick around. And when there is too much supply on the short side, but the demand meets it, I think at some point we're going to have another good push. And that'll be another great short opportunity. But the key is to just not pre-exhaust yourself. So we covered that last week, you know, about pre-exhausting yourself. So hopefully all that commentary helped. We had SPCE, swing idea, and we talked about it last Sunday, especially where we're expecting it to go, to the dollar, which was great. Also mRNA, which I compared, you know, 100% to SPCE. Trade it the same way, expect the same thing. Goal was 35, 37, gap up the day that it broke out. For the unwind, don't underestimate the unwind. We got all of that. So there was just an incredible amount of opportunities. And this is kind of the market where I typically shine, just because when stocks start acting like penny stocks, that's how I grew up, right? That's how I learned to trade. I was trading all these different OTCs. And so when things start to get out of hand and they offer these big parabolic type moves and literally trading like penny stocks, that's where I can really understand that price action. So that's why I was so zoned in, and that's why I'm able to kind of see that kind of stuff ahead of happening. But again, I'll remind you, trading it to that perfection is a lot different than actually doing it, because, you know, you got money involved. It might do a couple things during the day that kind of make you think twice about what you're planning on doing, and you end up selling, and you don't want to get back in, and you know, the trade ends up doing exactly what you thought, and here you are, you know, without a position. So that leads me to my next kind of point where, look, a lot of people are killing it, and there's also a lot of people that are not. So just understand that. I think it's important to give, you know, your friends and everybody high fives when everybody's killing it, but it's also, you know, make sure that you're checking in on everybody. Make sure if they're not, because you know what, it sucks. It sucks when everybody's, you know, killing it, and then here you are, and you're just like, oh, I missed that big opportunity, and it's frustrating. But you know what? If you didn't have all these people around you, you were just trading by yourself, you might not feel that, right? You might be more lonely, but at least you wouldn't be comparing yourself to others and, you know, upset about it. So just kind of always remember that there's always going to be more. There's always great opportunities. And the biggest point here, I think, that if you ended up losing on something, the faster you can bounce back. You know, and I always talk about this after a really big win or a really big week. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I forget what it was just a massive day. And I said, you know what, that's it. Like, day's over. Tomorrow's a new day. If I come in too aggressive, too happy from the last day, like, oh, okay, I killed it, I'm just going to start in here, whatever, it doesn't matter. It goes away just as fast, right? So be cautious, be aware of that. But also, if you lost, do the same thing, right? You can't get emotional about it, and you just got to come right back, because right now the same market that is taking money from you, if you're wrong, is also going to provide it right back, because there's just so much volatility right now. There's so much action that, you know, that move that you were wrong on, you were probably right. You were just early. So being able to realize that and being able to have that confidence to go back that next day, even though you were wrong the day before, you were likely right just early, and that's it. And so don't shy away from taking that A-plus trade just because yesterday you sucked on it, right? And I think that is something that a lot of people do. They're like, I'm gonna leave this one alone just because I was wrong yesterday and I was an idiot on it, whatever. But I think it's very important to not do that and reset and get going. So chin up if you didn't have a good week. Good job if you had a great week. Career type weeks made in that type of environment for sure. There's quite a bit of opportunity, and hopefully you guys were able to capture a lot of that. One of the other ones, VIR from Scan, thought process was it was a lot like SDGR, which had gone from basically 25 to 50. And I was suggesting that VIR was pretty much sister type name, like expecting the same type of move. And so it went from high 20s to about 40, pulled back to like mid 30s, and then the next on Scan that night, I also wrote it on Twitter, but thinking that it was a lot like NXTC, and the faster you can kind of realize, think, compare, and kind of have an idea on these things, the better the opportunities are, right? The more you can be creative and kind of, I've seen this move before, the better chance that you have of actually trading it properly. So VIR ended up going to, I think, $80 the next day, $83 or something like that. Almost like the same move, probably 60-70% of what NXTC did, and just very, very similar move. So again, hopefully you guys did that. And then last but not least, the SPY move. The SPY, was maybe 310, 315s, and I was thinking 280, 285, 290s, and we got right into that level on Friday. So I do not think that we are gonna bounce much, to be completely honest. I think that there'll be some all right, the virus is starting to get contained, we've got a solution, we've got this, we'll probably bounce back up that day, but I don't think we're gonna go back to highs this year. I don't think that we are going to make much progress on the rebound. As I said on Friday, or Thursday night, Friday, I said I expect to have 1,000-point bounce, but that's probably about it. And I think we're just going to consolidate. We're going to go sideways for 6 months, and then we'll probably get a little rocky towards election time and whatnot. So just be aware, be cautious, and don't expect to just go right back up. This is going to take a lot of time. A lot of industries were killed on this, and cruise lines, airliners, all are straight down. There's going to be great relief rallies, great bounces along the way, but just don't get too bullish, because we have gone straight up, and normally we have corrections, because just like any stock that it starts to get overbought, overextended, whatever. It's healthy for it to pull back, and it consolidates, it keeps on going. We've been going straight up. I'm not talking about, crash and we're going to zero, all this kind of stuff, but I'm just talking about the fact that we have yet to actually hold a pullback. We have actually yet to have any type of panic or sell-off or anything like that. We just went back to October right now. So I know it's a huge pullback, but we're literally back a couple months. So keep that in mind, and don't underestimate what can happen. I do think that we can still get uglier. I think there's going to be some great opportunities this year, but I just do not think that we're going to go straight back. And I don't think we're going to go up for at least 6 months, minus maybe a couple 500 to 1,000 point days, but they end up kind of just doing a consolidation pattern. So I think that was the topics I wanted to cover. And let's get right into Scan. So first and foremost, I've got the main watches, which include some virus names. Then I've got virus names, as well as some failed follow through, bounce watches, things like that. I would encourage you guys to go through and just get a feel for everything that's really pulled back, and make notes of things that you like, right? As I always talk about, the price alerts that we have at Investors Underground. we have it, and it pushes right through the chat room, which is huge. The benefit to that is you can be doing a scan right now and say, hey, you know what? I like it if it breaks this level. I like this if it breaks down this level. I don't want to forget this. And you put all those price alerts in, and then you'll be alerted when it comes. That way you don't have to watch 900 things every single day. But right now you should be getting familiar with literally hundreds of charts, not thousands probably. That'd probably be too much. But go through charts every single night. You got to see where things are. You need to know where the airliners are, right? If we get some type of rebound on the airliners, there's going to be airlines. There's going to be 10 names that you could be rebounding. Look for that sector trade and look for the ones that are lagging, the ones that potentially have an opportunity to rebound as well, and you're going to get some really great action. All right, so first and foremost, Enmax. Enmax held super well. Very aggressive moves. Right now you're talking about basically 17 down to 1270s, right? So 1770s to 1270s. That's insane range. And this is also, if you kind of take out all these moves, you can kind of see that it's trending higher, right? So it's difficult to trade this one. It's difficult to get aggressive on it. There was a point, just like I talked about, the faster you reset and making decisions based on, how you're trading. I actually got short over here, and, I was like immediately up $1. So I was like, you know what? I got a huge padding today. Friday was massive, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just add some more. I covered some, and then I added some more because I was like, screw it. I'm up so much, like, no big deal. And then it starts to kind of grind up, and I ended up, giving that dollar per share back that I was up. And so I want to be aware of that. I want to be cautious of that, but I don't want to get ahead of this thing. We're going to have a massive trade here. Higher the better. This thing traded very thin. And so it might be at the start of the squeeze, and it might also have just squeezed out on Friday. So with that said, I know I'm not picking a direction. You have to have two plans. And obviously it's going to depend on headlines. It's going to depend on the sector. But I think that we're going to have a nice $2 to $3 opportunity. I think that shorts are definitely stuck here in a big way. And if we start to kind of base over 1550s, I think we could go 17, 18, 19, 20 on this thing. If we do gap up and we're in the 1650 range and higher, and we start to fail to follow through, then I like to use probably a 1750 kind of idea as risk for the fade off. But we'll see. It's hard to make a decision right now just because even after hours it flushed down to sub 14, then comes back to mid 14s from a 16 close. So this is going to be my top watch. It's kind of like my APT of Friday. APT was my no-brainer, must-watch type of trade. And the reason that I picked that is just because of the big correction hasn't happened yet. So I want to be there for when it happens, but I need to be aware not to be too aggressive too soon. Otherwise, I'm going to miss the move, right? And a lot of people I saw, AHPI. I don't even have it on watch, right? I'm expecting this to be choppy as hell. And I want edge, right? Trading's about edge. So I saw a lot of people kind of trying to figure it out and trade over here and, go halt to halt. And there's just, where's the edge in that, right? So this one was a little bit of a frustrating trade. You can read about it on Scan tonight. But like I said, I had 25,000 shares under $4. And I even said I feel like this one's the one to go. I think it's thinner than most people realize, and I think it's the one. And that was frustrating for me, and I had to just say, what the hell with it on Friday, just like I talked about, reset, refocus, and it was aggravating. It was, because that was a 500 to 750,000 plus opportunity, and eyes closed, and it is what it is. So if I let that bother me on Friday, I wouldn't have had the APT trade. I wouldn't have had the IBIO trade and all those other things. So keep that in mind. But also, I think the most important point here is realize where your edge is, right? If you're trying to figure out which way it's going to go and it's randomly going here, randomly going there, like where is your edge? So that's why I went to APT. That's why I like that, the most volume, the thickest, opportunity-wise. And that's also why I'm focused on Enmax. You know, I think that it's a much healthier trade. It's not a $1 million, $2 million type float. And when the music stops, it's going to be thick, thick, thick. It's going to be a great opportunity. As long as they don't do anything stupid in the meantime and kill the move for us. So with that said, APT, next watch, I'm just looking for big moves, right? So I got to look left. I'm looking for maybe a morning gap up to the 25 level versus 27 risk, something like that. Or if it doesn't show up, meaning it just kind of on the morning, I'll be looking to join failed follow through momentum. I think it can hang around for a little bit. The volume was massive. It's very easy to borrow a name. There's options in there. So I think that there will be a great opportunity, but looking left was huge. The reason why I covered and got long under 17, as you guys saw, I posted, I was fading it, but it's very easy to look left, right? And I'm willing to put money at risk based on the fact that we're down from 40 all the way down to 17. Look left, and as I said in the room, 1750 was a huge level. So that's why I covered everything, and that's why I went long on the washout on Friday. Looking left, again, you just draw a line across from the 17 washout on Friday all the way back to Wednesday's low, and that was basically 1750 area, and that's exactly where it held. So in my opinion, if you're looking for more, you're not trading with an edge, right? You're trading with greed. You want more, 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 but the chart suggests that that's the max level that you should probably be looking for. Doesn't mean it can't go lower, but it just means that you're not, probability-wise, is not on your side. So anyway, that's big levels. Be aware. One thing I talk about is always look at the gap. Look at how much range is there, whether it's gap up, gap down. A couple people on, I posted the trade on Instagram. They're like, how are you risking $5 or 10% on the trade? One, you scale into the position. So I waited until VWAP started to fail, and as I said in the room, this is the first time since yesterday that VWAP actually failed and stayed heavy. So to me, that is a huge, okay, here it comes. And confirmation anyway. But I always look at it. If you've got $20 per share gap, divide it by 4. Your starter should always be okay to have that wiggle room. $5, right? You need to be aware, be comfortable with the fact that it's going to be jumping around $5. If it's gapping up $20 and it was a $20 stock yesterday, you got to be okay with $5 range. If you're not, then avoid it. If it doesn't make sense to you, avoid it. But when an A+ opportunity comes, this is what trading is all about, and this is what you need to be ready for, focused on, and you got to understand that you're going to have to exhibit a little bit more risk than usual on these types of trade because it's such a high probability setup that it's worth that risk. And if you're wrong, that's okay. You started in, it's okay. You had a risk that you were good with, and you go from there. And a lot of these, including IBIO and APT, a lot of people were like, well, what's your risk? What's your risk level? It's not that type of trade. You got to dabble in, you got to scale in, and it's all about price action from there. And does it do what you're expecting? Does it stay heavy? Does it unwind? Does it flush? Then great. Scale in along the way. If it starts to kind of base and starts to grind back up, then you might want to readjust your trade accordingly. But it's not a trade that is, hey, I'm risking X dollars. Because otherwise you're just going to get chopped out. It's not going to work the way you want. And if that doesn't work for you, then just avoid the trades. Use the same thought process on something else where you can say, okay, I'm risking X. But if you can't take a trade and without having to have X stop, then just avoid it, because that's not this type of trade. Any of these. Enmax, the same thing. You know, you might start in a little bit, and you might need a little wiggle room, and as it starts to scale, as it starts to fade, you can scale in, but you don't have an exact, I'm stopping out at this price, because it's just not that type of trade. mRNA, higher the better, squeeze up into the close, as you can see. So I think that this probably would get sold off. So if we gap up, if we get into the 27s, 27.50, I would be looking for failed follow through momentum. I think it could fade back. I think a lot of this was just a squeeze, some cover into the close. So the stronger that this close is, I think the weaker it would be on Monday. Not to say it won't gap up. I think it can still gap up if the rest do. But I think that it would fade back because most of the cover that could have come in on Monday came in on Friday. Alt, I'd be super cautious with this one. Definitely a seller in there. It's pretty obvious. I think that these guys are a little late to the game, but they just wanted to be able to get that headline out there to get volume. They have one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to sell paper. So they're ready to go. When they'll do it, who knows? I would not want to be, if this starts to go pre-market, I would not want to be long. Because last time they raised, I think it was 9:28 a.m. So be aware of that. Know the history. If it starts to get crazy between 9:30 and 11 a.m., I might make a trade on the long side, sure, knowing my risk. But just be aware. Don't overhold that. Watch your size and be okay with the fact that, these guys have done like an NNVC style raise before where it just down 60%, right? So for most of you, that won't be okay. So it's probably a good avoid. With that said, higher the better. Looking for the fade. I don't think this one hangs around. But with that said, it's all about supply and demand. And if everybody is on the short side, you guys know what happens. CODX is a perfect example of that. OPGN, I am looking to keep this one on radar. I faded it a little bit on Friday. It still felt relatively thin. It still felt a little trappy, so I want to be cautious with it. But I'm thinking that this is the one that's going to kind of fade off people's radars. So when nobody is looking at it, I want to be trading it. Just like GMPX, CODC, COCP, a few others like that. When everybody starts to watch the other one, whatever has a headline on Monday, when everybody's watching that one, these ones kind of sneak off. And that's what I want to trade. VXRT raised and they did warrants and nobody cared. So you can see that there was pressure versus VWAP, right? So that's what we kind of look for to kind of get proven that there was a seller there. Same thing, TNXP when they raised. You can see that it pretty much held under VWAP. So there is pressure there. This chart, as well as VXRT, suggests that there is more supply than demand. Whereas the other one suggests there's more demand than there is supply. So the higher the better, and I think that these will be met with supply still. So those are the main watches. Some other ideas as far as bigger picture ideas. IMAC, I took a little bit at the close Friday. This was kind of walked up. It kind of ramped up. The one thing to note is, they like to sell it off. But this is the highest volume day on Friday. And as I said in the room, the only level that really interests me is 120s. So I want to be proven that 120s can break out and hold trend. Otherwise, be cautious. This is not a chase play in the sense that, if you bought any of the breakouts, they just slam it right back down. So the edge is by buying the flushes if this trend holds. And that level that is key, if we see this gapping up 120 tomorrow, I think that a lot of people might actually play it just because that is if you look left, it's been a kind of a key level where it hasn't really held over that level, but you can see a top, a top, a top, a top, right? So that's why I quickly came to the 120 level. And if we do get that, you never know, newsletter, this, that, whatever, you can see that it likes to run in the past. So seeing the wicks, yeah, there's usually sellers in there, so be aware of that. But if it does base and break over 120s, we've got a possible breakout. ICAD, Like this potential bigger picture idea. Nice squeeze out. Looking for dips the next couple days. I'd be looking for the wicks that we talk about. Week open, breakout, things like that. TTNP had some volume at the close at after hours. Understanding what type of market we're in, right? We talk about sector trades. We talked about virus. We talked about all these different types of things that are running, right? Right now, I would normally never watch TTNP. I would normally never trade BIOC, IBIO, HTBX. But you know what? I did. Because that's what people care about right now. Everybody wants the next IBIO. Everybody wants the next BIOC. So people are watching 30-cent stocks right now, 40-cent, 50-cent, because they want to take it to $3. Because we've got this outlier IBIO trade, so everybody immediately is like, all right, it's not 30 cents. If it goes to 50, 70, it's going to go to $3, right? So that's why I was long HTBX on Friday. And one thing to note, though, and just like I said in the room, BIOC, I sold the majority of it into the close. And the reason for that is I said the stronger it is into the close, the more people are on the same side as you, right? So I prefer weakness into the close. That gives you the opportunity to kind of buy when all those people that bought for the gap are now selling, right? So you want to kind of shake the tree before the close on these big types of moves for the ones that really rip. And we had that IBIO. We had that on a bunch of different names. So with that said, TTNP, normally I wouldn't care. But this market, you need to care. So if this thing breaks out, I mean, obviously the key level's 32, right? From Friday. And then probably overall, I mean, it's not that far off, right? 35 and then 40, 43. So over 32, if this thing starts to really rip and we start to trade 100 million volume, then guess what? We have a potential trade. So just keeping an eye on it. HTBX, same thing. I held some over for a gapper potentially. I sold some into the strong close, just like I said in the room. But other than that, failed follow through. Again, my plan is not to overload you with stocks. For some of you guys, ignore all the virus names because it's gonna give you a lot of time back. You know, if you're not good at that, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel sometimes you just get too aggressive on those, and you would have had a better time spent, you know, with something else. BLDP, plug, things like that we're running. SPCE, ideally gap fill, higher the better, and then fade off. I'd love to see this into the 27s. CLR, love this range. We basically went from 14s all the way up to 19s, and you know, we might fill that gap, we might not, but I like this as a potential opportunity. DWT, for those of you guys that are unaware, you should be, you know, kind of looking at what this ETF is. Basically, it's a sector type of trade, and I am looking to fade it if the trend fails. And that's pretty much it. MRO, bounce watch. I tried it a couple times on Friday. Right idea, just I didn't stay. But nice flush out rebound. Other watches, AAL, and I'm flying through these just because I want to see these charts once. I will set price alerts on Monday, and that's it. I don't need to watch all these, but I know that when AAL hits X price, I'm interested in the long, right? Or a washout long, just like the cruise idea this week. Cruise liners. I had suggested this washout day as the fact that it was going to wash out and then we're going to have the big bounce. And the ideas was CCL, NCLH, and RCL, and that was it. That was bottom. So that was another nice idea from Twitter this week. Same thought process here, AAL and SABR. This is not a find the bottom type of trade. The only edge, in my opinion, is that flush out, washout day. Otherwise, wait for it to prove trend over VWAP, come back, hold, come back, hold, and then go from there. Last but not least, DEAC, same plan. Finally got some pullback. You know, this one was a swing idea over here, and you know, took off really nicely. And I was bummed because I had just started picking some up, and it just went, nuts. And so I was hopeful lower the better. So you can see all these wicks. I know it's coming down, but a lot of that's, in my opinion, related to the market overall. But you can see that there's a buyer there. And I know that it's lower, but there is somebody that comes in and scoops it up every single day. So I've been there. I've started into the trade, and I'm waiting to really get any real size until it starts to prove correctly. Same thesis as SPCE. As I said, the first time around was 11. We saw those wicks, but the second one was at 18. And then as it busted through 20, 21, I started to scale into that trade. So kind of same thought process here. Lower the better, picking away at it, and then as it proves thesis, I'll scale in. If it doesn't, then at least I'm not, sized up into a loser. And last but not least, TRIL. And this one, pretty nice opportunity on Friday, joining the trend. They actually halted it because, they with FTSV and rumor this and rumor that and all kinds of stuff, and they were just like, hey, no, not happening. But I think that a lot of shorts might have come in after that, and I think this can hang around. I think it could actually blow some shorts out. I think that the shorts never made it out of this trade after they did the offering. It was a near breakdown, gaps up, and shorts are in trouble. So I think that shorts probably re-added when it unhalted on Friday, and I think that if it hangs around the next 2-3 days, we could have a nice blow off back to, what is that, 6s or something? Yeah, so back towards 650, something like that. But again, I want to be proven right. I don't want to just guess or think that that's what should happen. So tomorrow morning, I'd be looking for a weak open and probably want to use 450s as my risk. So that's about it. If you guys have any questions, as always, the drill. Use the comment section. I try to get back to the majority of them, if not all of them. And the guy that we gave the 1 month of chat to last 2 weeks ago had a huge day, which was really cool to see. So like I said, every month we're giving away one free month. Other times we're doing t-shirts. The other times we're doing Momo Trader books, all kinds of good stuff. So that's my gift to you guys for paying attention and actually listening to me every Sunday. And so this week, Falk Smash is going to be the winner for a t-shirt. So again, I do those once a month. So towards the end of the month, I'll send everybody out Momo Trader book t-shirts and go from there. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please leave a like, thumbs up, and a comment. And next week, you will be in the running for either t-shirt, Momo Trader's book, or free month.